most of us have a lot of money that we're just sitting on our homes in that equity. And are we putting that money to work for us? Right?
And what does that look like though?
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of I Have Something to Say, where subject matter experts are unafraid and unapologetic about sharing their perspectives regarding issues that impact our lives. They speak up because basically they give a shit. So if you're tired of canned answers and want to finally hear real people cut through the BS and talk about real issues, this is the podcast for you. I'm your host, Sami Jimen Marrero from Urbender, and behind our mixer is our producer, Chris Majoka from UdoU.
Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of I Have Something to Say, and I hope you pull out your notepads and a pen because this is a critical conversation that we're about to have right now. I wanted to invite Liliana Pickens, my good friend.
Hi.
Hi, how are you? Welcome again.
Thank you. Thank you for having me again. I'm super excited to be here.
Yes, absolutely. And you are a returning guest. This time we're going to dive into a different topic. I'm just interested in learning from your expertise in the home ownership and property, buying and all of that. Let me first make a more formal introduction. Liliana is the co-founder and managing partner of Pro Coaching Infinite, and it's a coaching service or program or platform, however you want to call it, for real estate agents to get them ready to really serve and guide, right? People that are looking for home ownership and property investments and all of that jazz. And so I know you have a lot of experience in this arena. And I congratulate you for taking the deep dive into entrepreneurship and finding the right partner and starting this business because we need you, right? And when I say we, I'm going to be very specific. People of color really need you to really understand how to navigate this because there are a lot of interesting things happening, right, in the world of property and home ownership. And just wanted to, invite you. First tell me why you decided to start this business, right? And then if you can help us understand the current landscape of home ownership and access, to the opportunity to invest in here in the US.
Absolutely. So I first got into real estate 5 years ago, exactly like last month. It was my 5th anniversary, actually, of being in real estate. And I've been with the number one real estate company in the world since then. I'm not scared of number one. So if I'm going to do something right, I'm going to go, with the people that are actually leading the charge. Sorry, that didn't, whatever.
It's true. Hey, listen,
Listen.
Go big or go home.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely. But mainly, I mean, the reason I went into real estate to begin with, right, when I started my real estate career, I had been working for the same company for 20 years. And I worked from home and my kids were little. And at that point, I was feeling my oldest was graduating high school 5 years ago. And I was feeling like I had all this potential that was being wasted in my previous employment. So I decided to, jump into entrepreneurship. And I do have to say that real estate has changed my life, not just the industry and not just about the money or any of that. Actually, it's been in regards to the people that it has brought into my life, right? I know that real estate agents have a bad reputation out there. There's a shark reputation and they're always lying or, trying to sell you something or whatnot. That's not the approach that I have towards the industry. I feel it's more a guided conversation, especially within my Hispanic community, because we don't talk about money. People don't, we're not raised on the money conversation. We're not. It's a source of shame. And either you're born with it or you work hard for it. But we are taught from very little that you go to school, you get married, and you go work for someone, and then you make money working for someone. So I wanted to kind of challenge that mindset a little bit, and real estate has allowed me to challenge that and help others challenge it as well. and just have very meaningful and impactful conversations. So for me, it's not really just about selling a house. That's like the least of my concerns, right? I want to help people build their wealth. That's the that's
Awesome.
the that's
Yes. And
and
so,
with coaching, it's that mindset for the real estate agent, right? There again, we have such a bad rep in the world, especially in this country. And
yeah.
I want to help agents understand that they are opening their own business, that they are here as a guide and as a resource for their
Mm-hmm.
people. And to think as business owners, and to think as a business owner, you got to think profit, right? You got to think money, you got to think wealth, you got to think knowledge. Like, it's all these things put together. It's not
Yeah.
just as simple as, oh, I sold the house, yay, great for me.
Yeah.
That's why I see on my Facebook, like, oh my god, just sold, or just like, whatever. It's not about that for me.
Yeah. But the thing is, it's these challenges in our families are real.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
yeah, and I think that it has a lot to do with our for many of our families, our immigrant status. You know, even if you're like first generation born, you know, your parents probably, you know, were the first to actually start a life here in the
Mhm.
U.S. And so at that point, the need is just to put a roof over your head,
Yeah.
find a place to rent, put food on the
Mhm.
table, get a decent paying job, have access to health care, transportation, like all of those basic
Yeah.
human needs that home ownership and your financial stability, and not even stability, just growth. How to
Yeah.
even do that, right? Doesn't come into play because it's not a necessity. And so I just feel like now it's becoming a necessity to build
Oh,
wealth.
absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's always been a necessity. I just don't think it's always been a conversation. So
Yeah.
I'm super excited to have this conversation today because, the statistics show us, right? 75% of the wealth created in the United States is created through real estate.
Oh,
So when you think,
wow.
right, most people, I mean, you own your home. The last 2 years have been a little crazy in the market with home values increasing exponentially like they've never had, right? And so most of us are sitting in a ton of money. Most of us have a lot of money that we're just sitting on our homes in that equity. And are we putting that money to work for us, right?
And what does that, but what does that look like though?
Oh, I
Putting
love
that
that.
money to, yes, because I'm all ears. I'm interested because I'm like in this mode right now of making this happen, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I feel like most homeowners that have owned their homes for a few years now have amazing equity in their house, right? And it's a great way for you to pull out your equity and buy an investment property. In the state of Florida specifically, you can buy an investment property with as little as 10% or 20%, depending. It really depends, 10%, 20% down on when you're buying. If I were to buy a house at the beach, further away from my primary residence, I can get away with giving a little less down payment because it's considered a vacation home. But if I were to buy a house here in Orlando, I do have to give a little bit higher of a down payment in Orlando, Kissimmee, closer to me, because it's my primary residence is close. So it
Ah,
depends. But for example, my house, I bought, and I'm going to be very transparent. I bought my house in '07 at 246. If I were to sell my house today, I'll sell my house for like $650,000.
right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Last year, we were not the responsible homeowners and we pulled equity to build a pool.
I
And that
did
was,
the same thing. I did this, but you know what? It's to keep your sanity because we were
yeah.
like, with the pandemic, I'm like, I need another space to feel like I'm like I'm doing something, right? And so
Well,
yeah.
and for us, that was a huge conversation, right? Because I'm in real estate. So I'm all thinking, well, we can pull 100 grand and we can buy two properties. Right? I
Right.
can give down payment for two properties and have that rental income come in and just have someone else leave the property. And then I can either give it to my kids, later on, or sell them and make a ton of money afterwards,
Yeah.
like either way, right? And my husband was all like, yeah, sounds great. And, we're not going to move from this house. And we've always wanted the pool. And, he took me on what I'm calling my year of grief from the loss of my mom. So not
Yeah.
my reasoning and my business self,
Yes.
like not all of it was there, right?
Yeah.
uh, so I looked at him and I said, okay, so this one is going to be memories over money.
Right.
That's exactly how I looked at it. I was like I see it in a fraction: memories, a line, and money. It's not
Right.
always going to be, not every decision that we're going to make as a family is going to be always surrounding money or building wealth, right? There's going to be some things that are going to come before that, like, make
Yes.
it. But I can still pull equity from this house today, still pull 100 grand and buy the two investment properties. And that's actually
Yeah.
our goal in the next 3 years, is to buy 3 properties. We want one property for each kid. And my kids are not little, they're old. And they're 23, 20, and 17. And I don't want to leave them millions of dollars because I don't want to work that hard, if I have to be very, very honest. But I know that I can leave them property, and that's going to help them, to help set them up for the future. So if you're sitting in a ton of equity, like probably Sammy and I are, it would be an
Mm-hmm.
amazing conversation. Reach out to your real estate agent, reach out to your loan officers, and have the conversation. If I were to pull equity out and buy an investment property, how much money can I rent that property for? Are you going to pay your mortgage and then some, right, on that property, and make some income? And when are you going to get that return investment? Because people are building wealth through real estate, right? We were talking earlier about the hedge funds,
Yes. Talk to
right?
me
And
about this because
you were all like
yes.
I could hear you through the text.
Ah,
All up in arms, these companies.
yes, yes.
But listen, all they're doing, first, it's a very small significant amount of hedge funds that are doing that. Out of, if I'm going to attach that, because there's still no way to get those statistics, because that's just kind of started happening in the last year.
Yeah.
There's 2 big communities in Florida, one in Jacksonville, one in Melbourne, one with 85 properties or 86 properties, the other one with like 154 properties, that 2 hedge funds have bought. One was Goldman Sachs bought in Melbourne, and Fundrise bought in Jacksonville. And that's exactly what they're doing, right? They're buying these communities to rent them out. What they're doing is they're buying rental communities, and they are looking for their wealth in real estate. They're not investing all that money in the stock market, which says something, right?
Right.
But it's a very, very small amount of people doing that. That doesn't mean that, oh my God, there's no houses in Melbourne or Jacksonville for the Liliana Pickens and the Sammy Hamas of the world to go
Yeah.
buy a home, right? That's a whole other conversation. That's an affordability conversation. And the affordability conversation, I feel it's very tied to, unemployment,
Mm-hmm.
employment, and how much money we're making, how prepared we are to actually make money, what are our habits towards the money in order to accomplish home ownership. And to that, the war, inflation, it could be a mess, right?
Yeah.
But that's why it's so important to have these conversations, because when we make decisions in regards to our money, we need all of the information on our side. So my message with the hedge funds and the big corporations buying the rental communities is, I don't want people to think that, oh my God, there's no homes left for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are homes left for you. There's plenty of homes out there. In the last 8 days, there's been 1,336 homes in Central Florida that went on the market. No.
Oh,
So
wow.
there's, the market is changing. The market changed actually like 8 weeks ago. Most real estate agents haven't figured this one out yet, because they're not feeling it yet. But yeah, the market has changed. There's a little bit more inventory coming in, which is fantastic news for buyers, because
Yeah.
buyers in the last 2 years, I'm sure you've heard, they were putting 20,000, 30,000, 50,000 over appraised value. The market that we've had in the last 2 years was created by the consumer.
Yeah. Yes. And yeah, because it wasn't really a bubble like in 2008, right? This is really I
Yeah,
this was not the same situation.
no,
So then yeah.
no, and it's super interesting because everyone goes to housing crisis 2008.
Yeah.
Right, that's where our heads go, because that's the most recent crisis that we've had inside real estate. And the truth is that you have to understand history. And you know that
Yeah.
I'm a nerd. I'm going to give you the backdrop.
Yes, please go ahead.
So the whole housing crisis in '08 was due to the banks. The banks were lending money to anyone and their mother, and they
Yeah.
were putting people in loans that later on people couldn't afford, and then it all went to hell, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
people were underwater. We bought the house in November of '07, and by like November '08, we were underwater. But I was in a conventional, fixed loan that I didn't have a problem. I could still pay for my house and wait and hold my real estate until it became valuable again. Because that's the beauty of real
Right.
estate. The longer you hold
Yes.
it, the more money the more value it acquires. And but those people that were on arm loans, that they were like, yep, for the first 2 years you're gonna pay X amount of money, and then in the next two, and then after that your interest rate is gonna go up. If those people were the ones that were in deep trouble, because when the
Right.
interest rate went up, their payments went up and their salaries didn't.
Yes,
And then,
exactly.
that was a problem, right? So all these
Mm-hmm.
people with foreclosures and short sales, and that was the era of buying the most the coolest house in the most expensive market, or subdivision at a very low price.
Right, exactly. Yeah, yeah, it was crazy. It was absolutely nuts. But now fast forward
Mhm.
to now, right?
Yeah,
Almost 20 years later. Oh my goodness, I can't even, right?
after a
And so
pandemic, because we
and
cannot
for
ignore
the
that,
yeah,
right? After a pandemic, and again, we have to have perspective when we talk about real estate. We were on a very pretty, still a seller's market, but kind of like a balanced market before 2020, where we had like 3-4 months of inventory, and everything was fine and dandy. And then the pandemic hits,
right.
and then people start freaking out, right? And when I say people, I mean the government. The government starts freaking out. Oh my God, people are not going to consume. And we have to remember that our economy is moved by us spending money. Our
Right.
GDP is moved by us spending the money. And when the government saw, Jesus, we're gonna be locked in for how many months? Like we've never been in this position before. We gotta stimulate the economy, right? And we all remember the checks.
Yeah.
hmm And the checks started coming out, and people were saving money, because the people that had works in the finance industry, that had businesses that took the PPP loan out, these people were fine, right? Most of
Right.
these people were financially suffering, but they were saving a lot of money because they weren't traveling, they weren't spending money out eating. So there was a lot of money that was saved in the last 2 years. And then paired to that, all the help that the government gave out, plus the interest rates. I mean, I closed buyers at 1.7 interest rate.
Wow, that's nuts. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's not, like right now, you can afford a $500,000 home
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
very little money a month. So
Yes.
pair that, and then they overstimulated the economy. Then everyone was spending money like crazy because they came and they bought houses, which is a
Right.
very expensive thing to buy. I mean,
Yes.
we weren't talking $20,000. That we were talking a house that was worth 370. It's now worth 420, because people were
Right.
just throwing the money out there. Like,
Right.
it was unbelievable, right?
Right.
And then add to that the war in Ukraine, the inflation
Mm-hmm.
that we knew was going to come, because we're overdue anyway economically for a recession, and all of these things we're due. We've been due for a few years now. This just kind of like accelerated everything, right?
Right.
So we have a market that the consumer has created, because the market is determined by what a buyer is willing to pay.
Right.
Interest rates started to go up, because that's a lever that the government pulls in order to slow down inflation, because inflation is the number one enemy of democracy. You cannot have that.
Yes. Yes. And
Right?
in these past 2-3 years, then, right, during and post pan well, we're not even post pandemic at this point, right? We're like
Mhm.
still in kind of stuck. It's like this twilight zone thing,
I call it
right?
a new normal.
Yes. So in this new normal, do you see a lot of first time home buyers? Do you see
Mhm.
an increase in Latino, Black families buying property? I mean, please, share with me what this demographic looks like in terms of home ownership and property
Mhm.
buying properties, because the thing is we saw the census numbers, right? And so this might what they've called throughout the decades, this minority majority shift is happening, and I'm
Mhm.
just worried that we don't end up with the short end of the stick. And when I say
Mhm.
we, I'm talking about underserved, underestimated communities as a whole, right? There's,
Yeah.
there's some that have had the opportunity to buy,
Mhm.
homes and all of that, but there's a big chunk of us that have not. So
Yeah.
what does the demographics look like?
So we know that Hispanic consumers have increased in the state of Florida. The homeownership rate in Florida is 52% Hispanic. That's our
Oh,
homeownership rate. And it went up. This was late 2020. We're still waiting. The 2021 statistics don't come until a little later this year. And it went up from 2019. At 2019, we were at 47 and a half. Now, super interesting fact is that nationwide, we are expecting the National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Agents is expecting for 72% of first-time homeowners to be Hispanic in the next 20 years.
oh
So
wow.
we're gonna see a huge increase of Latino and Hispanics buying in the United States, and obviously Florida is very, very, Hispanic dense. So we're expecting a huge impact in Florida. And for example, it's one of the things that we're doing with our coaching program, right? We have
Yeah.
coaching in Spanish and we have coaching in English. Why? Because our Hispanic agents understand the information better when we give it to them in their language. And that
Right.
way they can empower the community better in their own language. I mean, we have copies of the contract in Spanish, and even though we cannot use the Florida contract in Spanish, like to sign and put offers in, we can use it so that the consumer understands what is it that they're submitting, what is it that they're putting their initials and their signatures on. And
Yeah.
so we know that, and this data, just so you know, it comes from the Hispanic Wealth Project survey and the State of Hispanic Wealth report. And
Wow.
52% is a home ownership rate in Florida for Hispanics. Now, nationally, that trend's a little lower. Nationally, we're looking around 25 to 30%. We are still behind Blacks when it comes to
Yeah.
home ownership.
Right.
That's just our reality, right? But I
So,
feel,
but wait, I just want to understand this. So
yeah,
52% of Latinos own their homes, or is it that 52% of homeowners are Latinos? Which one
52%
is
of
it?
homeowners are Latino.
Oh,
In
wow.
Florida.
In Florida? Really? Oh,
Yeah, I'll
wow.
send you this. I'll send you
Okay.
this. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I'll send
Very
you this.
cool.
And 20 in this statistics, it also mentions that 20% of Latinos own their business, and
Ah,
that's
and
actually
that's us.
54% higher than the U.S. population overall, which is fantastic.
Really? That's
Yeah.
here in Florida.
Hmm.
Oh
Yeah.
wow. Okay, I didn't realize that. Yeah, share those data points with me.
Yeah.
I would love
Absolutely.
to look at them. Yeah. This
Absolutely.
so we're moving forward. I love what you're saying, and now it makes sense. And I know that your this business, this coaching, business that you're hyper focused on now, is about providing real
Hmm.
estate agents with the know-how, right, on how to better serve first-time home
Absolutely.
buyers and people that want to invest in all of that, but also the non-Latino, right,
Absolutely.
agents, because of the cultural exercise of showing a home and educating a buyer, especially a first-time home buyer. It's a whole other experience. We did some cultural competency training for some real estate agents years ago, a long time
Hmm.
ago, and it's explaining, right, when you're dealing with a
Hmm.
Latino family, for example, it's a
Oh yeah,
caravan,
it's
it's a
different.
whole experience. You can't, you can't do a showing
Totally
in half
different.
an hour.
But
This
this, it's, I think it's beautiful, right? Because I'm, like I love learning about other cultures. I have one of my agents works very, very heavily with Chinese investors, and they're all about the feng shui. I mean, there
Mhm.
needs to be like balance in the house, how the doors are looking at, like it's like a thing, right? And
Right,
it's super
yeah.
to see all that. But yeah, you're totally right. Showing homes or selling the home of a Latino or Hispanic person is a completely different animal than selling a home from someone that's Chinese or
Right.
someone white. or black, because we all have these cultural things that have been embedded in us, right?
Yes.
Our
Def
programming, and it's going
yeah.
to affect our decision making. And I find that with minorities specifically, the conversation of money is not had when we are young.
No.
People don't talk to us about money, especially
Mhm.
women. I mean, they talk to us about getting married, go to college, finish college, get married, go to work for someone else. I mean, no one ever told me that I could have my own business. I am the only entrepreneur in my family. And I'm the
Yes.
only one. I'm looked
Yeah.
at, es que ella está loca.
Yeah. Well, there's several
I'm
in
not
my
proud, don't
family.
get me wrong, but
Yeah,
it's like it's still like a shocking concept for them. But what do you mean that what do you mean you don't have a salary? Yeah, no, I
yeah,
mean
yeah.
you don't when you
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, no, I hustle all day, every
yeah,
day.
I work 16-hour days most days, right?
Yes, definitely. And so this is really fantastic, Liliana. I'm really happy that you're doing this kind of work because it has true impact
Hmm.
in the future, right? And regarding investing in properties, what are your thoughts regarding going to another state, for example, like investing in, let's say,
Hmm.
North Carolina? It's something that I've
Yeah.
Scott and I have talked about. So what does that look like? Is it a wise thing to do? Because that could be a pain in the ass if you're not there and you're renting it out and all of this stuff, right?
Well, my first question to you would be why North Carolina?
Because it's growing. Yes, some of the cities there are growing and they're becoming more and more diverse,
Hmm.
right? And so then I feel that there's also a lot of discrimination in terms of renting and stuff like that. So we would be that how do you say that homeowner that would not be predatory, that
Hmm.
would not, I don't know. I just feel like if we could do something to support, changing the mindsets and still obviously, making money and doing the right thing for our family, but not with that predatory lens.
Hmm.
I don't know. And North Carolina is close enough that we could just drive there, right? But again, it's a burgeoning state in terms of diversity. And so that those were the initial thoughts.
So when it comes to investing in real estate, my whole conversation needs to be around, why is that important to you, right? Why North Carolina? And then we got to study the numbers. Are we thinking of buying a property to do long-term rental, or are we thinking of buying a property and doing an Airbnb, or are you buying a cabin, right? An Airbnb
Mhm.
in the cabin, like which one is it? And then 5 years down the line, how much money do you want in your pocket? And is that going to give it to you?
Mm.
When it comes around investing, it's always going to be about your return on investment. That's a conversation that I have. And then we run numbers and figure it out. Because at the end of the day, you're not just buying a property to help people get there, regardless of who they are, right? It
Right.
needs to be a sound financial investment because you cannot put your family at risk, a
Right.
financial risk, just to help someone else. It's like when we say in Spanish, de vestir un santo para vestir a otro.
Yeah. Mhm.
So the whole conversation will be about the money. So it's not a matter of if it's a bad state to buy or a good state to buy. It needs to be about your return on investment, and we gotta
Right.
look very specific in those markets and partner up with agents there that actually know those local markets to the hyper local level, and see how the appreciations have been, and then figure the money out.
Yeah. Okay. So it's basically, formula. It's very data
Just
driven and
yeah.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
always say that when you're
Exactly.
investing in real estate, and actually, this is not my saying. A friend of mine says this a lot, and he's a huge investor in real estate. He's like brilliant. He should be in your podcast. And he says, when you buy an investment property, you don't fall in love with the house. You fall in love with the numbers
Mm.
because you're not living in that
Okay.
house. So that house,
Yes.
the purpose of buying that house is different, right? This is not the
Right.
house where you're going to raise your children. That it doesn't matter if the walls are gray or blue or purple. Like it doesn't
Yeah. It
matter.
doesn't matter. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a different way to look at it. You got to look at
Yeah.
that investment property through different eyes.
You see, and I'm a sucker for emotion being a
Well, because we're
Also,
emotional
getting
beings.
emotionally attached to things and to doing the right thing, and not that we're not going to do the right thing by people,
Yeah,
right? But if it's like
yeah,
it's a rental property or something, it's like I'm just not
yeah.
yeah.
But let me
So
know because
you know
I
what I'm saying?
my
Yeah,
team of agents is all over the world. So I can totally help connect you with anyone in North Carolina that will guide you in the right way. And
yeah.
always, like Brené Brown says, right? We are emotional beings that rationalize every now and then. So
Yes,
don't,
or that have a good friend. Thank God you're in my life, Liliana. Oh my God. So you can set me straight because you're a straight talker. You're like, no, 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 no. Espérate, time out. Espérate,
okay.
espérate. What the
Vamos al Excel
hell are you?
spreadsheet. Okay, let's go to the spreadsheet.
Exactly. What was it? Don't fall in love with the property and fall in love with the numbers. I like that, right? Yeah,
Correct. Fall
yeah,
in love with the numbers, right? Because everything else is gonna happen. I mean, is it
yeah,
gonna be a pain to have a house in North Carolina? Well, it could be the same pain having it here. I mean,
yeah,
you'll have to deal with tenants, and you still have to deal with all the trouble that will come with that, right? So you
yeah.
need to you need to decide, what am I willing to do? What am I willing to work
Right,
with?
right. Totally. That makes a lot of sense. So yeah, so maybe it's something here closer to home. It would be make more sense. But we could talk offline
Yeah,
about that,
we can
right?
we can go to lunch and talk about all that.
Yes, yeah, we could go to lunch at my trade to go and talk about this. Yeah, because the
Absolutely.
thing is, yes, we're sitting on this, and I know that throughout the years, it's like you just said, right? We bought our house in 2003, right? But what does that look like now? I kind of have an idea. And then some people were how do you not encouraging us to put in the pool because of the value. It didn't make sense, right? But I love how you put it, memories over money, right? I'm not planning to move. So to
Yeah.
me, it's like and guess what? I'm the one using the pool more than anybody in this house,
I
right?
know that was our conversation, because I was like, so this means that we're not moving from this house.
Yeah.
This means that now we're investing in us. And we're
Yes.
gonna stay here, until I die, and you carry me out in a casket through the front door. But that's that,
Yeah.
right? But if we were thinking about downsizing, or selling the house when the kids are gone, we wouldn't have done that. We wouldn't have done that because it wouldn't have been worth it. I mean, in this market, we could get full value for the new
Right.
pool,
Right.
but we wouldn't
So
have
wait a
done it.
second. So what you're saying is if I later on want to downsize, that wouldn't make any sense. Like I just need to
Oh, it
um
depends. It depends on when you want to downsize. Because how much? I mean, I spent $80,000 on my pool. I'm pretty sure you
yeah.
were close because we were building a pool kind of like at the same time.
Yes.
We
Yeah.
were lucky because apparently everyone was building pools.
Yes, they were all backed up. Yes, it
Yeah,
took
they're all
forever.
backed up, right? So in this market today, if we were to put our homes in the market, we will probably get almost all of it back,
Oh,
right?
okay.
Because the market is so hot, and there's a lack of inventory still in the market. And even though we're seeing more inventory come in, there's still a lot of competition, and we live in very desirable areas. People want to live where you live, and people want to live where I live.
Right.
So those factors alone will justify an appraiser to look at our houses and go, yeah, if they spend 80 on the pool, we're gonna give them 60,000 extra value.
Right, right. So my question to you is for first-time home buyers, because this is really important, and for youth, right? It would be awesome if people would start buying, when they're younger too.
Yeah, we're
Um,
starting to see that.
Yeah. So what is your advice for first time home buyers and for young people that are like, oh my God, I just got out of college. I have a shitty job. I'm not making enough. Like what would be like a sound um recommendation, right?
So my sound recommendation, my best advice, and this is kind of like a motherly advice too, would be make a plan. Why do you want to buy the house? How much money do we need to buy a house? What is the plan to save the money to buy a house? Is there any help, any down payment assistance that the county is offering, or any part of the government is offering that I can pull from? Because there's loans out there for everyone and their mother, right? But the most important thing is to have a plan. By when do I want to do this? How much money do I need? And you need to have clarity on the numbers. Because when people come to me and they're like, yeah, I have $5,000 in my bank account, I immediately say, well, we cannot buy a house. And I can help you build a plan so that you're ready in the next few months. And then we go deep into personal budgeting. How are you spending your money, right? Uh, because people have bad habits with money. We all do.
Yeah.
I mean, the
Yes.
other day I was at a seminar and with Bob Kalinske, who owns the Keller Williams in Florida and Georgia, and he
Mm-hmm.
said the quickest way to waste $10,000 a year is spending $27.40 a day. And that was such a shock to me because he put it down in numbers, like everyday
Yeah.
numbers, right? That I printed it out and put it on my fridge.
Right.
Because $27.40 a day is your Starbucks in the morning and lunch.
Yes.
If
Wow.
you're spending, if you're eating out all the time, right, and commuting, and that Starbucks in the morning. I mean, I don't drink Starbucks coffee because I need my Puerto Rican coffee. But $5, $6 for a cup of coffee every day times 52 weeks of the year. I mean, are you kidding me? It's a ton of money that we're just like putting on the
Yeah.
toilet, like flushing, like it's not. So I feel like when it comes to like I will help people get financially ready for it. We will look at their budgets, and I would also recommend them to go to talk to a financial planner, because I am not a financial planner. I can help you with basic budgeting things. Like I tell my children all the time, when you spend your money, you have to think, am I spending the money or am I investing this money? Right? If
Right.
I give out this dollar, is this dollar going to give me something back, or am I just wasting that? It's just going down the toilet. But
Right.
it's very important to know your numbers, have clarity on when you want to buy this house. Last year, we saw that 40% of the mortgages that were issued to millennials. And these are
Mm.
30-year-olds, right? I love seeing that. My oldest is 23. And he's already thinking about buying property. I mean, obviously he has some influence, right?
Yes, exactly.
Like this is an
Hello.
ongoing conversation here. But even his friends, they're all like, the moment we can, we're gonna buy. But see, that's where the hiccup is. What do you mean the moment you can? How much are you spending on rent?
Right.
Because if you're paying $1,800 plus dollars, even $1,500 plus dollars in rent, chances are you can buy a home. The thing is that people are not educated enough to understand that.
Right.
An agent come to me yesterday and she said, I have $1 million cash buyer, and they don't want to buy because they're afraid that they're going to overpay for whatever is
Mm.
out there. But they're renting and they're paying $6,000 a month in rent. And I'm like, please run the numbers for them, because it's gonna be cheaper to buy.
Yes. Yes.
So I think it's
Exactly.
just a matter of getting, talk to people that know. Not everyone knows. So make sure that the people that you're hearing advice from actually know their numbers, actually know the market, actually know what's going on. Very, very quick on the topic of affordability,
Mm-hmm.
because I hear this all the time, and my agents are hearing this all the time from buyers. I'm not gonna buy because the interest rates are high and the prices are high, and I'm just gonna wait until the market crashes. No one is expecting for the market to crash. That's number one. Okay. As of today, no one is expecting for that to happen. No one has a crystal ball either, so who knows?
Mm-hmm.
But the truth of the matter is that 2 months ago, people were putting money over as price, right, in these homes, like thousands of dollars over, which would kind of like amount to the interest rates.
Yeah.
But extra on interest rates, so we're like, I don't understand where the mental block is. And interest rates are something that they're gonna come up and they're gonna go down. If you buy today at 5.5% or 5.3 or whatever it is, and next year the interest rates go down, you have the option to refinance.
Right.
At the same time, you're building your wealth, and that real estate that you're holding is gaining more value. Like, why would you waste your money on rent? I just don't get that. But that's a mindset.
Right.
Right? That's a mindset. And I feel like in our Hispanic community specifically, it's easier for people to rent because of the jobs that most of our people hold.
Right.
Right? I mean, the jobs that most of our people hold they're living paycheck to paycheck. And when you're living
Yeah.
paycheck to paycheck, it's very, very difficult to think big in terms of investments and money and buying a house. But you are paying someone else's mortgage when you're renting. Think about that one.
Yeah. Definitely. And so then it's a shift in mindset, right? But I feel like all of this
Absolutely.
information that you've shared, is very helpful and very encouraging too, because
Thank
it seems to me, right, that with the growing pool, specifically of Latino buyers, that
you.
there
Mm-hmm.
is light at the end of the tunnel, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then with homeowners that identify, as Latino in our case, right, that have already accumulated some kind of, wealth or equity, whatever you want to call it, right, to be in a position of then thinking ahead for our kids, is a very powerful thing. And I just hope that this continues to be a trend, right? I just hope that.
Absolutely. I feel like we need to challenge our Hispanic Latino community to think about building generational wealth,
Hmm.
because it's
Yeah.
not just about us, right? Eventually, we're all going to have grandkids, and our grandkids are going to have grandkids. And, what are we doing today for the future of our families?
Right.
And I mean, on a very personal level, I was never taught to think that way.
Right.
And I totally feel it's a mindset. And the beautiful thing about our brain is that we can reprogram it, right? And we can learn new things and apply the things into life, and look for the right information, and not just let Facebook or anyone who thinks they know stuff actually guide us through very, very important financial decisions in our lives.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Liliana. This was so helpful. Thank you,
Good.
thank you, thank you. I feel like, okay, you got me thinking. And
Good.
so,
That's my job, to
yes,
get people to think.
yes, absolutely. And I'm gonna call you so we can have that lunch, okay?
Absolutely.
Okay, gracias, muñeca. Te
De
quiero.
nada. Ah, te quiero también.
Bye bye.
This concludes this episode of I Have Something to Say. We want to thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to tell your friends about us. We're on Spotify and iTunes as well. There's more to come next week. And remember, if you have something to say, it's time to speak up.